Welcome to the NOSA Unleashed podcast, where we want to expose and remove the stigma surrounding mental health by discussing real-life challenges and obstacles that keep us paralyzed and fearful to move forward. Let us inspire you to believe there is more to life than what you are currently experiencing. Now is the time to end the silence and pursue the path to purpose and fulfillment. We will do this together because no one stands alone.
Welcome back to the NOSA Unleashed podcast. My name is Connie Blackwood, and joining me today is my husband, Walter Blackwood.
Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about the three pillars of relationships. And so, Walter, what would you say are the three pillars of a healthy relationship?
I think that the three most important pillars in a healthy relationship, any relationship, are love, trust, and communication.
So, why do you think that is?
Well, all three, it doesn't matter if it's a relationship with your mother, with God, with your spouse, with your siblings. Every single one of those relationships are based on those three things. The love that you choose to give, the trust in the individual, and building a healthy communication.
I agree. Out of those, do you think there's one that's more important than the others, or do you think they're equally?
Well, I would say that they're all pretty equal in the fact that if any one of them breaks down, the relationship does.
Mhm.
I know that there's an adage of a relationship having, or sorry, a marriage having three legs, like a stool, right? One is the husband, one is the wife, and one is God. And if any one of those is not present in the relationship, well, they'd fall over. It's the same thing with with these three pillars of a relationship as well. If you have only two of them, the relationship will fail. You might choose to love somebody and trust them explicitly, implicitly. Sure, we'll go implicitly. But if you don't communicate, the other two will start to break down. The same as you can go through in any order. If you don't trust the person, it's harder and harder to love them, and communication starts to break down. And if you're not choosing to be loving, to love the individual, then no amount of trust or communication are going to build the relationship past being acquaintances.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that for sure. I think you're right. Like, relationship without love is really difficult. I mean, you can't get past like superficial friendship with that, right?
Yeah.
And even with trust, like if you don't really trust somebody, your relationship's only going to go so far because
Mm.
you're never going to even open up to them to the point where they can go deeper with you. And then there's the whole communication piece too. Like if you would never talk to this person, how do you really have a relationship with them? And so, I mean, even in the aspect of family, I can tell even in my family who I have closer relationship and who I don't, my deaf sister, like ever since my dad passed away, I've seen her more often. And so like our relationship has grown because I'm communicating with her more often.
Yeah.
But before my dad passed away, I rarely saw her. I saw her at family gatherings. And so, you know, it's interesting that even the communication piece being so important.
Yeah.
So tell me about a time when it was difficult to love somebody and how did that impact your relationship with them?
I think uh, the time that comes to mind is my relationship with God at one point. There was a time years ago where Connie, you and I uh, we were trying to adopt a little girl named Lydia,
Mhm.
and things went south. It, some miscommunication, communication again, and other things coming up that made it so that we weren't able to do this thing that we had felt God was leading us to. And it was so hard to love God. I was so angry with him that I wasn't able to uh, get past it. And strained my relationship with God. Absolutely.
Yeah, I I had a different reaction to that one. Um, I actually found it hard to trust God for a while with that one
Hmm.
because um in the past, whenever I asked him why something happened, he told me. And in that instance, he didn't tell me why we didn't get Lydia. It just didn't happen. And he asked me a really important question. He said, "Can I still trust him even if he never told me?" And so I had to come to a point where I was like, actually, yes, I can still trust God, even
Hmm.
if he never tells me why. And so, yeah, that was a huge thing for me. It was really, I think that was my hard part with that one. How about you? Like, was there ever any time when trust was a weak spot in a relationship?
I actually have a lot of trouble trusting people.
Mm,
I've had a lot of instances where people have made promises and broken them, making it very difficult. I remember one time I was working at a church, and uh, I greatly respected the pastor, and there was a misunderstanding. Some people came to ask about a rack on the top of the church van that I used for my job there. And I told them that we never used it, but to talk to the pastor. And it was misconstrued that I was saying it was available to buy. And the pastor, in the middle of a staff meeting, called me out for trying to sell church property. It broke my trust. I felt ambushed. I felt hurt. It drained the trust equity from the relationship and put me in a position where um, I it cut off communication for a while too because of that. Now, eventually we worked things out and I had to leave for other reasons, but that was definitely a time where trust was hurt badly in a relationship.
yeah. It's interesting how one aspect, if it's damaged, can start impacting the others,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, the trust was broken, so the communication started failing. And, I was thinking about, back to the Lydia situation
Hmm.
with us, like, um, when I was starting to not trust God, it was harder for me to talk to him because I was angry. And even when I did, I wasn't sure what to say until I was just like, why? Right? Like I finally brought myself to say why. And that's when he responded the way that he did. And, you know, it's interesting how when one pillar starts falling, it starts deteriorating the others.
Well, yeah, it can go right back to that whole idea of the three-legged stool, right?
Hmm.
One leg is broken, it puts a lot of strain on the other two until if that one leg isn't repaired, the other two will collapse under the weight.
Hmm. So we've touched on examples of like losing the love leg and or pillar, I should say, and the trust pillar. How about the communication one? Do you have a time when communication failed in a relationship that you want to share with
Communication
everybody?
fails in relationships all the time. In fact, I think, although it is one of the most important pillars, it is also one of the most easily damaged.
Hmm.
I know in our relationship, there's been times where we've gone quiet
Hmm.
because things have been happening. And like I can remember one time recently, where you just had stopped talking. And I'm the type of guy, if you're not talking, I get uncomfortable and I don't know what to say. And then I'm not talking, and our communication just sort of starts to slowly break down. But then we turned it around. We had a conversation about it. And I realized the things you were going through at the time um, made it so you were more sullen, I guess would be the word to use. But then once that communication was open, I realized what you needed.
Mm.
I was able to step up and help you with that and understand that you did need some time too to heal. That was right after your father passed.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally hear you about the communication thing. And the interesting part about that is when you lose communication, it's really hard to maintain like trust and love in the relationship because like they're fostered on the communication piece, right? And you know, I've noticed when we have had communication issues, it's been like, does he even love me anymore?
Hmm.
Right? Like you wonder, right? He hasn't talked to me for a while and he's withdrawn and like, does he really love me? Right? Because then you start questioning, why aren't they talking to me? And so I wholly hear you on that one. Like, I think that one has a huge impact. And I think a lot of times we overlook it
Yeah.
as because it's just so we think that just by, shooting the breeze that we're keeping up communication, but that's not true. Like those instances that you're talking about, I'd still tell you about my day or whatever, and I'd still like touch base, but I wasn't letting you in, right?
It's like, yeah, every relationship is built on these three pillars.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute every relationship. But the closer the relationship, the deeper you have to go into these three pillars.
Mm-hmm.
We can, like, if you were just a friend of mine, then yeah, just shooting the breeze, that's communicating. Absolutely.
True.
That's as much as that relationship requires. Now, if you were family, it would require a deeper commitment to the love, to the trust, to the communication.
I think that depends on how close family it is. I mean, if
I
it's a
would say
distant
fair.
relative that you see once every 3 years, you're going to have a different relationship than your, sister who's also your best friend. Just saying, it's going to
Yeah.
be a lot different.
Yeah. And even siblings, like I only have one. So
Hmm.
I'm good with that. My brother he's at this level, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about other siblings.
Well, I have four, and they are all different. Like our
Don't know how you
communication,
do it.
my communication with each one is different because we have different levels of relationship, right? And it changes with things that happen, right? So, yeah.
It's a deeper relationship than a friend, and then your parents are probably are deeper than your siblings most of the time. Some people, their priorities are different, but then your relationship to your spouse, and you know what, even your relationship to yourself, if you're not communicating with yourself, being honest with yourself, loving yourself, then your own life starts to break down, your own relationship with yourself. um,
That's true.
yeah.
Like, I mean, especially if you don't love yourself, if you don't love yourself, then you're never going to trust yourself, and I don't know how you necessarily communicate with yourself other than talking to yourself. And that's not always the healthiest thing to do. So maybe journaling might be a positive way of communicating with yourself because it's enabling you to get your thoughts out on paper, or even going for a walk and recording your thoughts and then listening to them because it helps you engage with those deeper thoughts that you may not actually know are there unless you're doing something like that.
I would say communicating with yourself is extremely important because you need to process when you're processing your emotions and processing your thought life, monitoring your thought life. It's how you gauge where you are and what you need. And loving yourself is very important because you don't want to be unlovable. See what I did there? Just sort of.
Yeah, nice nod to my book. Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
But even beyond that, and when you're looking at your relationship with yourself and with your spouse, in an even deeper way, you need to have that communication, trust, and love with God,
Yeah.
even deeper than all of those. Like Paul says about praying continuously. I always have a running conversation going on in the back of my head, me and God, right? So I try and keep that communication strong. If I'm mad at him, I might, not be talking as much to him. But then that's me. That's a me problem that I have to deal with.
Mhm.
God always talks to us. He is,
And he always wants to be in communication with us
sorry?
as well. I always find that God also always wants to be in communication with us. So even if we don't think that he does, right? Like,
Mhm.
I think sometimes we think we're unworthy, or we think that we're not good enough, or we think that God doesn't care enough, or that our problems aren't big enough for him to care about. But in scripture, like it shows time and time again where God, like people would bring anything to God and he would listen,
Yeah,
right? Or insecurities, and like even if you read the Psalms, like David was like complaining and God was like, okay. And then he would turn around and go, but you're so great, God. Because in that moment, he finally dumped all this stuff out. He realized, wait a minute, but God is so amazing in the midst of all of this stuff,
yeah.
right? And so it's just so neat to see like how people actually like communicated with God, because it means that when we hit those hard times, it doesn't matter what we have to do, like what we have to say, God wants to hear it.
If there is a communication, a trust, or a love problem in our relationship with God, it is a you problem. It is not a he problem.
Yeah. He is perfect in love, and he's always worthy of our trust, and
Yeah.
he is a really great communicator. He communicates in ways that blow my mind.
Yeah.
Because
And when we say this, this is speaking to ourselves as much as anybody, right? If I'm having trouble praying or communicating with God, that's because I have an issue I need to deal with. So don't anybody out there hearing this think that I'm calling you out. Well, I am, but also calling myself out.
and for those of you who, don't even believe in God or whatever, these principles are applicable in other relationships as well. Because we've been talking about family and friends and even marital relationships or romantic relationships. It's applicable in all different types of relationships. That's a great thing about God's principles. They apply to everyday, ordinary life.
Exactly.
So, Walter, what do you do to restore pillars when they do go down? Like, what are some active things that you do?
I think uh, two of the biggest things are intentionality, for one, making an honest effort to repair what you're seeing damaged. Don't wait for the other person to do it. If we're having a communication problem, if I'm sitting there sulking, waiting for you to speak first, nothing's going to get fixed because you might be sitting there going, "Oh, thank the Lord, I finally have some peace and quiet around the house." Whereas I am like thinking our relationship is falling apart, right? So I need to take responsibility, which is the second thing, identify there's an issue, and then intentionally be responsible for it. I think that's the only real way to do it. And that's coming from a guy's perspective here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because guys are doers. We see a problem, we fix the problem. If there is any wife out there listening to this, you are nodding right now that when you come to your husband with an issue, he is a fixer. That's what he does.
Or
But
an attacker.
what do
Sometimes
you
they
mean by
attack those
that?
issues.
Oh, okay, yeah, attacking the issues. Yeah, otherwise
Oh,
they'll.
no, 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 not an attacker against people, an attacker against issues.
Yes.
Sorry. I should have clarified that.
So if you're feeling unloved, letting your spouse know, not just like grabbing them, I love me, but letting them know you're feeling unloved. If there's something going on where you feel that trust equity is just not there, then by communicating that, which is why communication I think is one of the most important pillars, because it's through our communication that we identify these issues. See, Love is the choice in a relationship. Trust is the equity in it. And communication is the foundation of a relationship.
Hmm, that's a good way to put it.
Well,
Because love is more than just an emotion, it is a choice. Because you're choosing to love this person regardless of who they are, what they do, what they say. And like, especially in a marriage where you've made a commitment to this person for the rest of your life, like you're choosing that every day. And not every day is it easy to love that person. Not every day is it easy to go, you know what, let's go all in, right? It's not easy.
no, and you look at what Jesus said, right? He didn't go and say, go out and feel love for one another. He didn't say, go out and buy candy and flowers for everybody. He told everyone to go out and love one another. So if it was just a feeling, just an emotion, how could he ask us to do it? It has to be a choice, something we choose to do.
Mhm.
And it comes back to that intentionality, right? You're actively choosing to love somebody, even if they're being a jerk, even if they're being unlovable to you.
Mhm.
Because love is the only thing in the universe that you have more of the more you give.
Ooh, going deep, Walter.
Oh,
Going
yeah. I got
deep.
all sorts of deep thoughts. I just mostly keep them to myself because not all of them are right.
Yeah, and I like the thing that you said about trust equity.
Hmm.
And it reminds me of the time that you tried to quit smoking.
Oh, yes. You put that in your book, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Um, because it actually had an impact on the trust equity in our relationship.
Hmm.
And, you know, you wanted to quit. You had the passion to quit, but it was so hard and you were kept trying to hide it from me, but I knew the truth. And so the trust equity was deteriorating. The communication was off because you weren't telling me the truth. And then I wasn't telling you that I knew the truth. So we were both faltering there. And it was impacting our relationship in multiple ways. And, you know, it was so cool when you came to me and you're like, no, I know that I've said this before, but this time I mean it. And I'm going to go about it this way because I know that this will succeed. And sure enough, that is exactly what happened. And we did it. And the thing is, we did it together because
Yeah.
you did needed my help to do it. And that was this one thing that I think was missing every other time you tried, is you tried to do it alone.
Well,
And so,
yeah, all three of the pillars were there,
mhm,
right? Um, Trust. I trusted in you. I knew you were going to forgive me and accept me, even though I had damaged the pillar. I knew that your love for me would make it so that you would help me through this. And I communicated with you and you communicated back and we worked together on it, right? And anybody out there that thinks that they're getting away with smoking and that nobody knows, you are deluding yourself because it stinks. Even if you take a breath
mhm.
mint or something afterward, no, anyone within 5 feet knows you just had a cigarette.
The funny thing is, Walter even did like cologne, brushed his teeth, did the whole 10 yards, and I do.
Here's my clothes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's harder to hide than you think it is.
Absolutely. That's just a
Um,
public service announcement right there.
so back to the topic at hand.
Yes.
What do you do to maintain these pillars to keep them strong?
Well, I would say that again, it has to come back to the intentionality. You have to be looking for it, monitoring it.
Hmm.
You don't have to be like a zealot where you're like analyzing every relationship in your life all the time, 24/7, but you do little health tests, checking out, seeing how things are in a relationship. You're communicating with people, giving your friends a call here, stopping by visiting somebody there, you know, uh, demonstrating that love, choosing to love people. When you see an opportunity, you take it. right? I think about the five love languages. Not everybody uses them, not everybody agrees with the book. I personally think it's amazing because when I learned that, you, Connie, needed acts of service, I found that that was a way I could show you love all the time. And so it was a way for me to intentionally grow those pillars.
Yeah. And even when I learned yours, like it was the bottom, like one of the bottom ones for me.
Mhm.
And so I had to be intentional because yours was touched. And so I had to be intentional with making sure that I greet you with a hug and things like that. And I had to be intentional about reaching out and just putting my hand on your knee or something because that's what you needed. And for me, like it's so low on my list, it doesn't come naturally for me to do show love in that way.
Yeah.
And so it became something where I was like, okay, he needs this, and this is how I can show him I love him. And so it's an eye opener because we tend to try to love people out of the one that we want to receive. And then when they don't receive it well, we get like frustrated. And
Mhm.
then they try to love us their way, and then we get frustrated with them too because it's not the way that we want to receive love, right? And so it's it's really important that we like learn these things and so that we know how to not only receive love from other people but also be able to give love where they can receive it more easily.
And that
And
both love
go
and
ahead.
communication. Absolutely.
Hmm.
And trust too. I mean, when you're by being that intentional, I mean, because if I am acting loving to you all the time,
Hmm.
you feel you can trust me.
Yeah.
And I say trust is the equity of a relationship because it's something that is built up over time. When you do things that are trustworthy, it grows and grows and grows, right? And if you make a mistake, because we are all human and we are all going to screw up, still, it doesn't like it's something that cushions the blow a little bit.
Well, and it doesn't immediately go away. We jokingly call it husband points.
Yes.
And so he does one great thing, he gets like a huge amount of husband points. He does a wrong thing and it takes away a huge amount, but he always has more in the bank than he uses, right? And so I totally see that happening, like that's being the trust equity that you're talking about, right? Like
Yeah.
even the way we were playfully talking about husband points, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Keep in mind, most of the time when I spend husband points is due to a colossal amount of dad jokes, one after the other, until I'm driving her crazy.
On purpose. On purpose, people. On purpose.
Yeah, fine. It's on purpose. I think my record is 26 consecutive puns while we were going through a supermarket. Pretty sure
And
she had a divorce lawyer on speed dial there for a minute.
I did not, but it happened to be the month of my birthday, so I think he was just mocking my birthday because my birthday's the 26th, so
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I do want to touch base on the fact that you said communication is the foundation.
Hmm.
Um, where does that come from? Why do you think communication is the foundation of a relationship?
Well, the only way to uh, start, build, or maintain a relationship is through communication and maintaining that communication, right? I look at my own um, revelation of Christ. I can't say found God because God was always there. I just didn't see him. But God communicated with me in a very tangible, real way. And that was the start of my relationship with him. His relationship with me started before the womb, right? I look at our relationship. How many hours do we spend just talking and becoming friends long before we realized we'd fallen in love with each other and then chose to grow that love, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
it was like a year and a half of talking every day,
yeah,
practically. Yeah.
took me a while to wear her down, I'll tell you that.
Oh, that's funny. Um, so yeah, communication is a huge part of this picture. Um, love and trust are huge parts too, but we want to talk a little bit more about communication because I think that um communication sometimes gets missed
Mhm.
more than the other two. Like when you think about relationships, love and trust are always at the top of the list, but you don't hear a lot of stuff about good communication or healthy communication. And when you do, it's always like, you just need to talk more. Well, there's a lot more to communication than just what you say. But we're going to talk more about that next time. So join us for our next podcast, which will be about communication in relationships. So we'll see you next time on the No Sun Unleashed podcast. Bye.
Bye.